guys, and welcome to episode 14 of Quantifiably Bitchy. I am your host, Raquella, and today we're going to be discussing the entirety of season 1. I know normally I do a single episode, but since it's the end of the season and the end of my podcast season until I take a break for the summer, I'm going to do a full overview of season 1. I did a ton of research for this episode, which is not something I usually do, so this should be a really exciting, new, fresh episode, and I'm curious to see how it goes. Some housekeeping items. Do me a solid and follow me everywhere. I am Quantifiably Bitchy without that I in bitchy. My link tree is in all of my bios, but again, you can find me Quantifiably Bitchy without that I in bitchy. Since this is the season finale of my podcast, I decided to do a giveaway to thank you guys all so much for tuning in. This has really been a dream come true. It started out as a project to kind of keep the horrors away and just be able to separate myself from my 9-to-5 and enjoy art just as a hobby. So it's been a real treat to be on this journey with you guys. And as a thank you to you guys, I did bejewel a second Hannibal mask. Look how shiny. And I will be doing a TikTok giveaway for this. It should be going live May 31st. Fingers crossed. That's when I hope to get this episode out. It will be on TikTok, so do me a solid. Follow me on TikTok. Check me out on TikTok. It's going to be US only. All of the details will be on TikTok. It should run for about 2 weeks, I think is what I'm going to do. And then I will announce the winner. So go ahead and follow me there and keep an eye out again for this lovely giveaway, this bejeweled crystal Hannibal mask. I got the mask 3D printed from Etsy. Unfortunately, the seller is no longer around and I'm super sad about it, but I did bejewel it myself. Here is mine that I made for me. I did the gems a little bit bigger on the first one and I decided to do them a little bit smaller for you guys and see how much sparklier I can make it. So that will be on my TikTok as a giveaway, as a thank you all. And I would like to do more TikTok giveaways in the future. This is my first one, so I want to keep it to the US just so I can keep it manageable for me and be able to deliver for you guys, you know? The goal is to eventually do more and then I can expand it and maybe make things, do like something that's easier to ship overseas and we'll go from there. So, yep, super excited to do that with you. Go ahead and go over to my TikTok if you're interested in this giveaway. All right, so season 1, this is the pilot season. So something interesting about pilot seasons and something to keep in mind is usually in what I've seen is that the creators are more at mercy to the network because they don't know how successful the show is going to be. They don't have a lot of like power or leeway, and they're still trying to see if like the ratings will suffice, but we get a season 2. And I would say the pilot season is kind of like your first pancake. The pilot episode is going to be that very first pancake. It's going to be like the weirdest of all of the episodes because it's how you introduce the show. It's how it's being piloted to networks. It's not going to have hit its flow yet. And that's why I'm really excited to get into season 2 with you guys, because that's where I think we really start to hit the sweet spot of the show itself and the characters and the storyline. And I think the arc is really beautiful. Season 1, it's very obvious to me that the network wanted kind of like a procedural cop show, and Brian Fuller did everything in his power to kind of check those boxes, but give us something that is much more deep, beautiful, meaningful, gay, and just better. So I think that's why I love TV so much, because there are these like restraints by the network. You're being censored, and like still a lot of really good art is being made, and Hannibal's a really great example of this, and I'll go into it when we go into each episode. But when you have these restraints in your art, sometimes it requires you to be creative and improvise, and like really beautiful things come out of that. So I am not about censorship, and I wish that we could do whatever we wanted all the time. There is this great experiment in TV where you're just kind of pushing your limits based on like the rules and law of television and cable. That's something else to also keep in mind with this show, is that it was a cable television show and it was doing all of these crazy things with blood, gore, queerness, which was pretty crazy for the 2010s, unfortunately, but it's true. So to be able to see what the show is able to accomplish within the restraints of society and television is just a masterpiece. So I'm really excited to kind of review season 1 as a whole today. I do think that there is this great thought of psychology called Gestalt psychology, and it's where the whole is considered greater than the sum of its parts. Like, yes, individually the parts mean their own thing, but when you put them all together, they have this much greater, much deeper meaning. And I think that's kind of what I want to tackle today in our episode, of tackling it as a whole as opposed to these separate episodes one by one that I've been doing with you guys together. So let's go ahead and get started. Something I would like to discuss as about season 1 as a whole are the main themes. I'm going to go through each episode and discuss the episode theme itself, but I do think there is an overarching theme for the entirety of the show. And I think for season 1, it is this concept of morality, good versus bad, this kind of black and white view of evil and good. I do think there's this concept of like love as consuming and, you know, the cannibalism element, but also being seen for who you are is a great theme, just to be seen in general. I do think that Will struggled with his sense of self throughout the entire episode, and just knowing who you are, identity and morality are really core subjects and themes that we kind of travel through season 1. So let's start with season 1, episode 1, Aperitif. The main killer of this episode is Garrett Jacob Hobbs. This is what throws us into the entire series. Will's brain starts to break once he kills Garrett. And this is, I think, the first person he's ever killed. And this is how we kind of start this transformation, start his becoming. He's gotten this taste for the dark side, and he has always tried to keep it at bay, but it's becoming harder, and knowing Hannibal is making it harder. Themes of this specific episode: love and consuming being the same. We meet Garrett Jacob Hobbs and how he wants to eat his daughter Abigail, and instead kills and eats these other victims. And I think the concept is very similar to Hannibal, where like you consume them, now they are a part of you, to honor them and honor all of their parts. And that's definitely a heavy theme of the series. And I think also being seen and being known. We see at the end of the episode where Garrett Jacob Hobbs is like, do you see now? And Will starts to struggle with his identity after that. So I think those are really important themes for this episode. Personally, I took notes for all of these on a Google Doc, so some of my notes are like absolutely ridiculous, and I'll read them to you guys. But my favorite parts of the episode are Will Graham's bloody freak out at the Hobbs crime scene. We see him kill somebody for the first time. He is shaking, he is struggling, and it's a little funny to me, but I also do think it sets up, like, we see him kill later, it's much different. It is the first time he's killed somebody, and it's just a really dramatic, bloody, fun scene. Honorable mention to Will finding Winston Graham on the side of the road and taking him home and bathing him. Love that scene. So adorable. I love seeing Will soft and kind and loving, and it's, I think, important. We see Hannibal do these things too. We see him be soft and kind and loving in moments, and then, you know, juxtaposed to him killing and eating people. So again, this fluctuating concept of morality. And I think we see Will really loving with the dogs and then really loving murder. And it's just a very nice, the dichotomy of Will Graham, as I have discussed many times before. Because Will Graham is an infant, like he is a baby. And we kind of see him before it all, right? Like then he kills Garrett Jacob Hobbs. He's starting to become, he is a baby, a lamb. Like it is crazy to see how baby he is in those first episodes and how naive and just like not himself yet. Like he is starting, he is a seedling. He is at the beginning. I love that. We get our first shining bathroom in episode 1. We get Jack yelling in the bathroom, which is great. Love Lawrence Fishburne. He's so dynamic as Jack Crawford. And we see that, you know, in the way he talks to Will and then the way he's screaming for everyone to get out of the bathroom. Like that's a great scene. We meet Franklin for the first time. I didn't remember this. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we do meet him in the first episode. And we also see, that's where we see Hannibal speaking for the first time in his robin egg blue suit, because he is also a baby, an egg. He has not met Will yet. He has not had this life-changing experience, even if he is a serial killer. We meet Alana Bloom this episode, asking Jack for Jack asking her for permission to kind of put Will in the field, and she's like, I know. And they don't listen to him, and then, you know, the rest is up to fate. Hannibal and Will meet for the first time in this episode, and their fate is sealed. They very much remind me of like Geralt and Yennefer, where it's like their fate is tied together for the rest of eternity, whether they want it or not. There is this like fateful meeting and moment between them, which is just so romantic, toxic, but romantic. We love to see it. We learn that Hannibal is a cannibal the first episode. He is cooking Elise's lungs. And right off the bat, we are being told this man eats people. And as an audience member, you're kind of forced to reckon with that. And we all kind of ignore it and love him in spite of it. And I think that's also really important because that's how Will feels. Like, we as an audience are able to feel it. Love that. It is kind of crazy that we get multiple cannibals within the first episode, but there is something really comical about that, and also just fun, because like, what are the chances that we have multiple people eating people? Welcome to the FBI. It's also really crazy because this is when Hannibal brings breakfast to Will, and he's like, oh, I don't find you that interesting. But he like feeds him the lungs of the copycat victim. So Will is just like, I think like he'd be so traumatized if he found out, but we are like, he is immediately bringing people bits to Will to eat. And it's this person that they're like trying, like they just found this victim. They're like, oh, this is a copycat. And Will unknowingly is like eating the body. Crazy detail. We get the teacup imagery in this first episode when Hannibal and Will are eating breakfast together. Hannibal comments that Jack sees Will as a delicate teacup, you know, just waiting to break. And Hannibal then reveals, you know, he doesn't see Will as a teacup. He sees him as a mongoose, you know, waiting among snakes, which is just a really great metaphor for Will, because again, mongooses are cute and furry and little, but they like will literally fuck your shit up. They have great hair, but they're gonna rock your shit, which is a great metaphor for Will Graham. The infamous call to Garrett Jacob Hobbs, which is a great little reveal moment. You're not really sure whose side Hannibal is on at this moment, his own, obviously, but the phone call is kind of what puts everything into motion. And we see Hannibal playing puppeteer, puppet master very early on in season 1. We get to see Will kill for the first time, and we kind of see that change him as the season goes on. But this is like the kickoff moment in the plot, the one that's going to just like start the rest of the story. What is it called? An inciting incident. Will killing this person for the first time, Will killing Garrett Jacob Hobbs for the first time. This is what kind of catapults him into craziness, into his neurosis, into encephalitis. And then the episode ends with this beautiful shot of Abigail Hobbs in the hospital with her 2 dads sitting by the bedside. It is a really fun way to start off this series because it feels procedural with Garrett Jacob Hobbs, even though he dies in the first episode, but they are solving this murder. And it ends really bloody, and it's just a lot of fun, especially if you are a Hannibal fan, which I was a fan. I saw Hannibal first, and then I saw Silence of the Lambs because it was just like always on cable television. So I just like, as a kid, stumbled upon it, and the brain scene with Ray Liotta freaked me out so much. I was like, I need more. So then I discovered the Hanniverse and fell into Silence of the Lambs, and you know, I knew the show existed, and I was like, I should watch that, and I just like never did until a year ago, and now here we are. Some behind the scenes facts for the episode. I've included some behind the scenes from my wonderful The Art and Making of Hannibal. I figured it would be fun to share tidbits about each episode with you guys. So for this specific episode, Cassie Boyle, who is the copycat's first victim, the antlered girl in the field, she is made out of a silicone prosthetic. It is fully articulated, so that means it can move, it can bend arms, legs, head, everything. David Slade was initially really nervous about using a prosthetic because he didn't want it to look really fake. I think it's beautiful and looks very, very real. But the tricky part was they thought it would be kind of tough on an actress to be in that position for hours at a time, and they would have to take breaks, and it just seemed to be too big of a lift for a human person. So they used a prosthetic, and it's a beautiful prosthetic. I'm a huge like animatronic prosthetic film person. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies for that reason. The way they use prosthetics, like Stan Winston, like that is my boy. If you are also a fan of that kind of art, I recommend falling into like the Alien universe, Jurassic Park, even like Grogu, like is an animatronic that's like very beautifully done, that makes the movie magic feel real. And props like this, definitely I am drawn to because they're just like beautiful pieces of art that are practical effects. So she was a practical effect. She was a silicone prosthetic. And the fact that it was fully able to like move their arms and legs is kind of crazy. Love that detail. Something else I'm going to do today is talk about some of my favorite shots within each episode. For example, in this episode, season 1, episode 1, we get this great shot of Jack, Will, and Hannibal is looking at the corkboard with all of the strikes victims, and all of the strings are just pointing directly to him, and Will is looking at him, and it's very, you know, all signs point to Hannibal. It is a very beautiful foreshadowing shot. I love it so much. It's subtle. Brian Fuller, you're gonna see this today, but Brian Fuller really favors the symmetrical. He really likes symmetrical shots, and I do think it's fun when it's balanced with Will's mental instability, but it also is very drawing to the eye. So as you'll see in this shot, all signs are pointing to Hannibal. Will's kind of staring at him like it's just, Jack is not paying attention, like it's just a really nice shot. We also see a lot of fun use with blood, especially in the scene where Will shoots Garrett Jacob Hobbs. It's on his glasses, it's on his face. It's kind of like near his mouth. We have the color gold that's used really well. And then we have this last shot, Abigail Hobbs in the hospital. Will and Hannibal are there. Will is sitting on the side that's kind of lit better, and it's this very like angel versus devil moment. Hannibal is in the dark in this shot. Abigail's in the middle. We have this blue background behind her. I find blue to be a very safe color in the Hannibal universe. It's usually in hospitals, and it's very much like angel and the devil, but they're also her two fathers. It's again very symmetrical, and again a beautiful just use of color and light. And then we move on to episode 2, Amuse-Bouche. The main killer is Eldon Stamets. This is the episode with the mushrooms. Another really beautiful large prop. We get the mushroom garden. We get those dumbass kids thinking it's marijuana. It's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of yellow. Like we're in the woods, in nature. One of the main themes of the episode is connectivity. The mushrooms with each other, Will and Hannibal, just being able to connect with other people. Will and Hannibal really struggle to connect with other people because their thought processes are so elevated. And I think connectivity and just like connection in general have been kind of a struggle for them both throughout their entire lives. So they have finally found each other, and they are connecting in ways that they didn't really think were possible for them, which is kind of how Eldon Stamets feels about the mushrooms. Some of my favorite parts of this episode are Hannibal giving Will a genuine smile, and Will giving one as well. Freddie Lowndes getting jumped by Jack in the hotel room. That shit is so funny. And Zeller like having slept with Lowndes and being like, you betrayed me. And she's like, girl, I wanted the story. And also Will refers to himself as Jack Crawford's crime gimp. For episode 2, we are first introduced to Freddie Lowndes, my baby girl. So we meet her in episode 2. Hannibal and Will start therapy for the first time because of the shooting with Hobbs. Jack is like, oh, can you make me feel better? Go get tested. And Hannibal kind of like rubber stamps him, but like still kind of wants to sit and have therapy with him. And this gives Hannibal kind of privacy from Jack, knowing that he's going to rubber stamp Will and then can kind of just like talk to Will about whatever he wants. It's genius and unethical doctor behavior from Hannibal, but we love it because it's how we get the drama. It's for the plot. Freddie Lowndes meets Hannibal under false pretenses. She comes to his office and is like, hey, I'm looking for a therapist. She gives like a fake name, and Hannibal clocks her immediately and is like, you've been very naughty, Mrs. Lowndes, which is just sluttiest line ever for a moment that's not slutty. It's supposed to be scary, but it's also really hot. So there's that. We see the stag for the first time. This is the first time we get to the stag imagery. It's in the hospital when Will is visiting Abigail. Will admits to Hannibal that he enjoys killing, and we get that great Hannibal line where it's like, God enjoys killing too, so like why shouldn't we? And are we not made in his image? Just beautiful, beautiful episode as far as like Will starting to learn how much he likes to kill people and connecting with Hannibal, and just the beginning of a beautiful, beautiful relationship. Some more behind the scenes for this episode is the mushrooms were prosthetic molds. They picked a mushroom that would be like really easy to mold in mass. They wanted to do them individually, but it ended up just being too large of a task for television. You do have time restraints with filming these episodes, so sometimes you just kind of have to go for like the easier path, but it ended up being beautiful, and genuinely, you can't tell. I think these props are stunning and some of my favorites in the series. Some of my favorite shots from this episode, we get Will in his FBI little classroom, and we have this image of Garrett Jacob Hobbs behind him. It feels very parallel to how he's sitting on the desk. The use of color, the projector, the image of Garrett Jacob Hobbs kind of being the focal center. It's lighter than everything else. Again, really symmetrical, really beautiful, really just brings your eye into the shot, into the center of that shot. We have Freddie Lowndes and Hannibal in his office sitting in his little blue chair with the beautiful red background. Freddie's in all red. Hannibal's in the center of the couch. I like this because he is in charge. He is in the center of the moment. He is trying to get his tape recorder back, and Freddie is in this very vulnerable position. I like the way his office is decorated. It's mostly dark, but it has these beautiful red tones, you know, blood, murder, anger, like it can represent a lot of things. I also like this shot with Will and Hannibal. Will is in the forefront of the shot and Hannibal is in the background blurry. I like this as a metaphor for Will's becoming. Hannibal is slowly creeping into his life, and since we're only on episode 2, he's blurry still. He's still coming into the shot, and I love that. And then we move on to episode 3, Potage. The main killer of these episodes is Hannibal / Nicholas Boyle. You know, he didn't kill anybody, but he is being framed here. The main theme of this episode is Folie à deux, which means madness in two. And that again is Hannibal and Will. And it can also be like Abigail and her dad. Like they think that they're working together, but is this phenomenon where it's two crazy people essentially. And we are seeing like Hannibal and Will kind of explore this together. Some of my favorite parts of the episode are Abigail being like, I'm gonna be messed up, aren't I? Girl, you were already there, but like, yes, there's like no, like you're a celebrity victim, like you've said, like there's no coming back from this. And also I really like the reveal of Marissa Schur, her best friend, in the antler room after being rude to her mom. Hannibal was very much, she was just like, shut up, mom, you know, like one of those like very teenage moments. And Hannibal saw it and was like, you're next. So I think that's hilarious. Don't be rude to your mom or Hannibal's gonna come for you. We learned that Garrett Jacob Hobbs kills his victims to honor them, which is again a direct tie to Hannibal. You know, the killing is because they're rude, but there is also this like spiritual, meaningful element to it for him. Important to note. It's Abigail meets Freddie for the first time, which is the beginning of a very toxic, very interesting relationship. Freddie is like very much trying to take advantage of Abigail's naivety to kind of get to the bottom of the story because she senses something's up. Either, you know, Abigail was involved. She's very clearly hiding something, and Freddie also wants the story. So we see this very interesting pair of Freddie and Abigail, and it's just another example of how like an adult is trying to take advantage of Abigail. This is a theme throughout her entire life. We see it with Hannibal and Will. We see it with Garrett Jacob Hobbs. We see it with Jack. We see like everybody is trying to use Abigail for their like own means, and that's part of her trauma. We get to see how incredibly clever Abigail is, though. Like, she is not to be underestimated. Even if she is naive and young, there is this bit to her that is very clever and conniving. And again, she was being used as bait for her dad. We don't know that at this point, but like she is a much more dynamic character who kind of hides under her little cry face in order to like be taken less seriously. But it's a struggle when she wants to be taken more seriously because everyone sees her as kind of this baby. We get a really great Freddie outfit in this. I mean, all of Freddie outfits are great, but there are some that I just like prefer more than others. Abigail goes ahead and kills Nicholas Boyle. This is her first time killing somebody outright, as before she was just bait and she was just kind of like assisting these murders. In this instance, she is doing it herself. And then we get that hilarious scene where Hannibal knocks out Alana, Dr. Bloom, and helps Abigail kind of hide the body of Nicholas Boyle. I don't really care for the whole Nicholas Boyle plot line. I understand why it's important. I love the color gold used in this episode. I really love that Hannibal and Abigail are now tied together because Hannibal is somebody that like definitely will like do you a favor, but it's gonna cost, right? It's gonna cost, in this case, her loyalty, her ability to keep a secret. He's using this cover up of a murder to kind of control her. And that is something that Hannibal really likes to do. A behind the scenes fact for this episode, the Cassie Boyle prosthetic we see used in the previous episode is the same as the Melissa Schur. It's the same prosthetic with a wig on. So instead of having to make an entire new prop of an entire new body, they just repurpose this, and it's beautiful because you don't see her face, and it's like a very scary visual. This is another really, really beautiful, scary, big prop that we see. But I think it's another example of like TV magic and having to get creative and having to like use your really expensive props for like multiple things. And it's just smart. So I love that. We get a lot of really beautiful shots in episode 3. We get Abigail hunting with her father, Garrett Jacob Hobbs. There's a lot of gold in this episode. Gold is like a very safe, beautiful color for me in this episode, in this show in general. We see it a lot throughout season 1. I'm going to discuss it like for a lot of these episodes with the screenshots, but this is a great screenshot because it shows that she can hunt. First of all, she can hold a gun. She like knows what she's doing, even if she's kind of struggling. Her dad did teach her these skills. So we see him in the background haunting her like a ghost, but she is locked in. She is shooting this gun. And I think it's a very insightful moment for her character. We see the gold again with Melissa Schur and Abigail at her old house. We see the gold leaves in the background. It's just such a beautiful shot. The two of them kind of look alike, which is like a recurring theme throughout the entire show of these like characters that look like Abigail. So just a really beautiful shot, a really beautiful use of the color gold. Safety in her friends, you know? I'm just throwing this in here because Will is in his underwear and I don't hate it. But I do also think seeing him vulnerable like this, seeing him dressed down, casual, there is very much like a vulnerability to it, which I think lends really well to the Will Graham character. Aside from the fact that I like seeing him in his little chonies. What are you gonna do? Again, more yellow in the shot. The cannibal graffiti, just huge and in your face and like black. And it just like sticks out around all of this gold, this like very normal looking family oriented house. Just, I love jarring shots, and that's something that Brian and team do really well, is they want to really like just kind of shock you and throw it in your face while providing a really beautiful visual. And then we see the stag again, just this black stag around all of this gold. It's like all of this like safe, warm, inviting color. And then there's this like pit of darkness, but like intrigue in the center. And then we move on to episode 4. The main killer is the mother, who is Molly Shannon from SNL. I love her. It is where she making these young boys kill their families and like stealing them to be their mother. So it's like very dark. We don't see a lot of female serial killers, so it's nice that Brian kind of threw one in there for us as a little treat. A big theme of this episode is family, found family, and mommy issues. So I think a big theme, overarching theme of season 1 and just the show in general is found family. Hannibal and Will don't have a ton of family. Will has none essentially in like Hannibal's past. You know, we know he had it. He's no longer like around family. They were both orphaned very young, and just the concept of like our parents fucking us up and what that can do to us, like with Abigail. So the idea of family making our own family and what that can entail and mean for us. Some of my favorite parts of this episode are when Hannibal goes over to Will's house and feeds his dogs people sausages, and then rummages through all of his things. He's looking at the fishing lures, he's looking at his books, he's looking at his underwear. Like Hannibal doesn't, he is so me, like just nosy as fuck. I really appreciate that about him. We get the great Jimmy Price line, the Norman Rockwell with a bullet, when we're looking at the crime scene. We find out Alana is a beer drinker. Love that. Just a nice little detail for someone who is hyper feminine. She is drinking beer, which is not like traditionally a feminine drink. So I think that's a nice character detail. We find out Jimmy Price is a twin. It's always interesting to find out when somebody is a twin, because twins are like so unique and weird and interesting. So that's a lot of fun. Will gets that gift for Abigail and like wraps it in that like brown paper. Hilarious. We get that great shot of Hannibal and Will in his office, and Hannibal's like feeling paternal Will, and he's like looking at his butt. It's just the memes. It just like exists on Tumblr 24/7, and I just really love that. This is also, we see Jack bullying children for the first time. The little kid he's like, oh, can I talk to my mom? He's like, no, you're going to jail. You're going to jail, kid, even though he didn't do anything wrong. He was like literally a victim, literally kidnapped. We see, you know, Jack kind of crossing the line with children. It happens a couple times throughout the season. And then we meet Bella at the very, very, very end of the episode, who is a very dynamic character in the sense that we see somebody dying that we like, and it's like a very soft, emotional manner. compared to like the brutal killing we see throughout the entire series. We also get Abigail doing shrooms. I forgot about this. Another part that I love is like Hannibal and his unethical like doctor behavior is he's like, let's put you on shrooms and see if we can turn those bad memories into good ones. And he makes her breakfast and it looks bomb as hell. So again, found family, the idea of connection and the family we build if we don't have family of our own. We see Jack and Bella's bedroom. And my behind the scenes fact for this episode is the design team, they designed her bedroom and her hospital room very specifically. The bedroom was draped in a naturalistic imagery of rare orchids. That is quoted directly from The Art of Hannibal. And it was to kind of show her representation as like this wilting, rare flower. Like she is beautiful, formidable, but she is dying. And then we go to her hospital room that we see later, and it was an early 80s California brutalism with travertine marble and polished concrete, which was meant for the whole space to look like a chapel for her to be worshipped in death, which is, I think, a great tie into both Jack and Hannibal and Italy and like all of those things. Just keep that in mind. Some of my favorite shots from this episode. Well, we get Jack at dinner with Hannibal. We get these great antlers on the table. I think something that Fuller's team does every time is they always change the centerpieces to kind of reflect the scene. And I think that this very obvious tableau in the center is basically being like, yeah, I'm the copycat. I, pretended to be the Shrike kind of imagery here. So that's fun. I like the perversion of Christmas in this episode because we get the great use of color red. We get this shot of the one family. It's like a downward shot into their living room. It's again like this like fucked up version of like a Norman Rockwell painting. It's supposed to be happy Christmas presents and they're all like laying dead on the ground. And there's like a dead body in the fireplace. So just great use of Christmas. We see yellow and gold again. I always love shots like this too because we're looking through the bushes to this house and we see the gold in like the front of the shot. And it's always nice when you add, it's almost like adding a little texture to the shot. Like you're looking through something, it's like you're watching from the bushes. It's like you're there and you're hiding. And it really puts you kind of in the shot. We get Hannibal in this like really silly shot, but it's also it's really fun. And like Brian and team love to do this too, to play with perspectives. We get Hannibal looking at Will's fishing lures with his eye looking really big in the shot. It's just aesthetically kind of silly, but also really beautiful. There's like an art to it. Just a fun way to use the camera. And here's another shot that's like symmetrical. Will sitting at the table with his family before they get killed. He's like envisioning it has this kind of gold like layer over it, filter almost to make it feel soft and inviting when it's about to be a murder scene. Again, very symmetrical. It's your eyesight is going to Will, and it's just this like very feeling of balance for a man that's like very unbalanced. And then we move to episode 5, Coquillas, which has our main killer, Elliot Budish. He is the one he has cancer and he makes the blood eagles. And a main theme of this episode is going to be transformation, honoring death. Are we born evil or made that way? The concept of mortality. You can't beat God as much as Hannibal thinks you can. You can't. And if you can't beat him, become him, I guess. And it's like, can we control the way that we die? Do we have a say in how we end it? Those are the main themes of this episode, which are very important. My favorite parts of this episode, the blood eagle, obviously. I think it's one of the scariest ways to die. There's so many good images of it in television. Vikings has it. Midsummer has it. Hannibal has it. Like, it's just, you're alive when it happens. You can still be breathing. Just to be able to put that on cable TV is crazy to me, but I love it. We get Will laying in the crime scene, like on a plastic sheet. Again, not contaminating it, but like the shit they let him get away with is hilarious to me. We get Will in his underwear on the roof. And we get Hannibal smelling Will's encephalitis for the first time and kind of clocking it. We don't know that that's what's happening, but that you can see when you rewatch back that is when he is clocking the encephalitis for the first time. He can smell the sweet heat on him, and he's kind of like, and Will's like, "Why are you smelling me?" And he's like, "Oh, it's your stinky cheap aftershave." But in fact, he's smelling his brain disease. Crazy, but also kind of reminding us that Hannibal is like kind of unkillable, and he is this like elevated killer. He can smell sickness on people. That's like a superpower. That's like you're a special kind of human. Will starts to sleepwalk. Winston follows him and he gets taken home. We get Jack and Bella going to Hannibal's house for the first time to dinner, and that is where the Bella Hannibal relationship starts. Hannibal and Will are discussing how brain tumors can affect behavior, which is, foreshadowing for Will's encephalitis, but also we learn that that's kind of what happened to Elliot Budish. We see Will yell at Jack in the alley about the second victim, and nobody yells at Jack, and we're kind of seeing like Will like lose it a little bit, and like everyone scatters because they're so scared. One of my favorite moments of this episode, and it's mirrored later on, but we see Elliot Budish's wife talking to Jack and Will about when she realized he had cancer and how Budish wanted to kind of be on his own. And you can see her talking, but you see Jack realizing that that's what's happening with Bella. He thought she was having an affair. No, she has cancer and is trying to hide it from him. So we get this great reveal with Lawrence and his facial acting and realizing that that is what's happening to Bella. I love that. In this episode, Will does try to tell Jack that he thinks what he's doing is bad for him, and Jack just doesn't listen. He basically shoots him with the "I'm not your father," but he sure does act like it, so it's very much like Jack loves to push Will, but doesn't like to protect him and doesn't want to like claim him when it's not convenient for him. And at the very end of the episode, you see Will have a hallucination with Budish after Budish has killed himself, and he basically tells him that he sees Will as evil, and this, I think, kind of pushes him into the becoming more. Like Budish sees this transformation in Will before he can see it himself. One of my favorite behind the scenes facts is in this episode with the blood eagle. So if you know, the shot is the two blood eagles, and it's like we're facing the back of them, so we see their butts. And initially, the production team was nervous that the network would find the blood eagle in general just like too gory, but apparently the real issue was the butt cracks and the cleavage, which is just like so cable TV for you. Like it's just like prioritizing all the wrong things. So Fuller and team ended up just like making the shot a little darker, I think, and then putting more blood in the butt cracks to hide them. And the network was like, perfect, cut it, let's go. And I just think that's a real testament to, again, being creative on television and kind of malicious compliance, but also just the ridiculousness of like the television censor. We get some great shots in this episode as well. We get Hannibal in therapy with Bella, and we get, again, a symmetrical shot. I think that Hannibal respects her. I don't want to say sees her as an equal, but respects her enough that this like shot is very symmetrical. They're kind of close. Love that. The blood eagle shot, there's a lot of symmetry in this. Very symmetrical, very gory, and you can see the bloody butt cracks. Amazing. I like this shot of Will in the alley looking up at the victim. It feels very biblical. It feels almost hopeless. There's like Jack walking up to him in the scene. It's like Jack is always behind him in his line of sight, influencing him. Great representation in this shot. And then we get this at the end of the episode. It's Jack and Will hanging out in their chairs. But, Jack has found out his wife has cancer. Will comes to comfort him. There is this beautiful symmetry in the shot. Again, balance when in their worlds there really is none, but we're seeing this balance in the shot. And then we move on to episode 6, Entree, and this is where we are first introduced to Abel Gideon. The main killers of this episode are Gideon and Hannibal, and the main themes are knowing when one is awake or present. It's kind of like tagging on to this whole like hallucination thing, what's real and what's not. This idea of self. We talk about the Norton grapes. They are the same color inside and outside, a grape with nothing to hide. And it's this concept of who we are on the inside versus outside, how well we know ourselves. Sense of self is really important when we talk about Gideon because he doesn't know who he is, or he's struggling to find out, and that's very parallel with Will. Important themes. This is our first introduction to Frederick Chilton. He's only in 2 episodes this season. He is in more next season. Part of why season 2 is my favorite, but there are lots of reasons, but that's definitely one of them. My favorite part of the episode is meeting Chilton, of course. He's like really pompous. He's wearing his little glasses, his little bitchy suit, bitchy hair. Amazing. The shot with 2 stag heads. Like, it's just great. And then we see Hannibal attack Miriam last at the end of the episode. That's also a favorite. It's really beautifully shot. It's scary. I love it. Wound Man. Wound Man is also a theme in this episode. Like, we see a lot of visuals of it. So keep that in mind. The nurse is the victim in this, and it's that really slutty shot of like Will and his big old butt recreating the crime, which is supposed to be really gory and scary, and it is, but it's also really slutty, which is something that I think that this show does like exceptionally well. It's always really slutty, really scary, and it's just like, what a weird combination. And I think it's just so unique and fun. We found out that Chilton was consulting on the Ripper case prior to Will, so that should kind of tell you like where we're at as far as like getting it solved is like not far because we have this idiot that's helping. We meet Miriam Lass and Abel Gideon in this episode. Jack starts getting those like weird Miriam phone calls, and it's kind of like, at first you're like, is she alive? And then you realize it's the same call over and over again. You're like, is this a recording? Like, what is going on? It's, I think, again, something that Fuller and team do super well is really question, like you're guessing like what is happening, what is real, what is fake. It's just something that we do every single episode. Hannibal has Chilton for dinner and he serves him tongue, which I think is great because Chilton's such like a little yapper. And he serves him tongue, so like that's a really just funny. Hannibal's always going to be like in your face and kind of like teasing you, and I love seeing it in these like little details. Jack decides to weaponize Freddie Lowndes this episode and write that kind of fake article to pull the Ripper out. We see Hannibal on his iPad being an iPad kid. That's just like another amazing moment. I also think like adding new tech into something that only had old tech before, because like Silence of the Lambs was like what in the 80s, 90s, like modernizing it is kind of fun, and seeing how these characters who we knew previously would use modern day tech today. And I really do love that Hannibal has an iPad and is like on it frequently. Gideon claims he killed Miriam Lass, and at the end we see Miriam's severed hand being found, which is, again, like I imagine watching this like live on cable television, and if you did, I'm really jealous, but like what a crazy reveal, because it's like, is she dead? Did he preserve it? Is she alive? Like what is going on? Love it. We get our slutty rendition of Wound Man, which I'm pretty sure Hannibal drew himself. I think it's his signature on the shot, on the piece of paper, which is hilarious that he would draw him so muscly and slutty when like that's not how he's usually portrayed. We get the nurse portrayed as Wound Man. We get that like visual of her with all the things stuck in her. So there is this like very, Wound Man is like a theme that we see throughout. I love that Hannibal is a former ER doctor, and we kind of find that out this episode too, because there's something, being an ER doctor, especially at Hopkins, is like a very impressive feat. It's like one of the best hospitals. It is also really chaotic. You're dealing with all kinds of people, you know, gunshot wounds, you know, it is a chaotic ER environment. I've known a couple doctors that have worked at the shock trauma, and that's like very prestigious. And I think it just goes to show you how impressive of a doctor Hannibal is, but also how he's very quick and easy to like work on his feet, because you kind of have to be as an ER doctor. I don't know if any of y'all are watching The Pit, but it's like you have to kind of be like ready to go at a moment's notice and like be creative. And I imagine him thriving in an environment like that. We see him incapacitate Miriam Lass at the end, and I think this is a great Hannibal moment because we see him be really loving and caressing, and I think he kisses the top of her head. And I think it ties really well into how we see Hannibal viewing death and hurting people. There is this like loving, romantic aspect of it. Some behind the scenes facts in some of the BTS like reel. I think this is where the cameraman just like absolutely wipes out, and it's just like a brutal, brutal blooper.
From the disposable phone traced here, or with.
But also I read in The Art of Hannibal that Gideon was a chance to give a nod to Hopkins' original portrayal of Lecter, having him behind the bars, having them interact with him strictly in prison, nods to the original Silence of the Lambs, which is pretty cool. Now, some of my favorite shots from that episode. We get this shot at the observatory. Again, really symmetrical, really balanced, and counteract that with how unbalanced and like mentally unstable Will feels. It's very jarring. I always really love, and like Brian does this a lot, you kind of have to be creative with some of the shots if you want them to be fun. And we get a lot of top-down shots. We get this top-down shot of Hannibal at his desk. And, you know, usually everything's very like straight and in line, but like we see like his books are a little off kilter, and he's very stressed about this Freddie Lowndes article. And it's just a fresh and new way to explore a shot, is just like looking down at him. We get some more symmetry throughout. Will in his office kind of having a small mental breakdown. Being tired. He is just the center of the shot. Your eyes go straight there. And we have the opposite of this with Jack getting the phone call from Miriam Lass. It's shot from the down up. It's shot from the down up, and we just kind of see his back, but again, really symmetrical. I like this architecture. It feels very Baltimore to me. I also really like the black and white flashbacks, and we get this with Wound Man because this reminds me of that scene in Silence of the Lambs when Clarice goes to see one of the bodies for the first time. It feels the same. It's very much like Miriam is a nod to Clarice as well. So we get this like very, I know Brian didn't want to recreate the originals, but it's nice to kind of nod artistically at them. Of course, Chilton and the double stag head. It's just better, it's just a really beautiful representation of his character. More is more, bigger is bigger. It represents Hannibal and Will coming to wreck his life. Like, it just has so many meanings to it, and it's nice because they're in the background. You can barely kind of see them, but they're there. And then I like this shot too because I think something Fuller and team does really well is when to reveal scary moments. And this scene of Hannibal coming down the ladder as Miriam is recognizing the wound man and connecting the dots. It's just, I love when horror movies really utilize the background and make you kind of always be paying attention. Just because it's not in the center of the shot, it's not in the foreground, it doesn't mean it's not important. And then we move on to episode 7, Sorbet. The main killer is Devin Silvestri. This is the one who's like taking the organs to sell them. Themes is a feast presenting itself, friendship, and connection. My favorite parts of this episode are the mention of Essex, which is like a tiny little area where I live, and it's like, who is referencing Essex? I love that. And the ambulance scene. It's iconic. It's a really wonderful, important moment in the Hannibal-Will relationship. We see Will seeing Hannibal save a life, and we know that he takes them, and it's like a very unique moment into Hannibal where we see him actually reviving somebody. And I think Will is like slowly starting to fall in love with him and just see how impressive he is, which I love. We learn that the Ripper kills in threes, and that we usually are going to see him kill 3 people at a time. He sees his victims as pigs, and it's our first major pig reference. Pigs are a really important metaphor in Hannibal. Pigs are as smart. They're like smart. I don't want to say they're as smart as people. That's not right. Pigs are smart. They're intelligent, and their DNA is similar enough to humans that we use them to like test. Like, we can test on them, like on their corpses, and like get similar results that you would be to humans because we are similar. So like there is this nice tie-in and connection there. I love this beautiful shot of this woman singing at the opera. It's one of my favorites. It's like blood is coming from her and reminds me of like old Shakespeare plays when they use ribbons as blood. It's just such a beautiful shot. It's one of my favorite, I think, in like the whole for season 1. The shot of Hannibal's spinning ear is like so Brian Fuller to me, and like so Pushing Daisies, and there's this kind of whimsy to it, and it's really nice to see his style kind of peek out every once in a while. We get our second shining bathroom. I love that we get 2 of them. Will mentions how the Ripper once took out someone's tongue and used it as a bookmark in the Bible, which is fucking epic and like so Hannibal. I love that. This is our first mention of Bedelia mentioning Hannibal's human suit, which is a nice metaphor that we take along with us. And like, Hannibal has many suits: the plastic suit, the human suit, his real suit. It's always nice when we learn that Bedelia can see him a little more clearly than everybody else. Another really great horror reveal is this great long shot of Hannibal driving up to the lab tech's car on a dark, rainy night. It's like a very kind of like a long, it's like I said, a long shot, but it's like a long sequence of Hannibal driving up and then meeting him, and then we know he dies. It's just classic horror vibes. Hannibal and Alana cook together, and we get that great Will is a zombie with his arm missing in a Jack hallucination, because everyone's hallucinating now. And we see Hannibal's method of collecting business cards, and that's how he makes his feasts and picks his victims, which is just creative, organized, and very Hannibal Lecter. Franklin continues to try and be Hannibal's friend, but we meet Tobias, and we meet one of his real friends, and we kind of see that continue. This is the episode where Will misses his appointment, and it breaks Hannibal's heart. He is like so upset about it, and he literally drives 2 hours to go see if he's okay. And then they go and find the Jack comes in, and they go and find the killer together. And we get that like in the ambulance bay when Hannibal's like, this is very educational. And it's like, people are dying, dude. Jack with the shotgun. I love it. In the ambulance, and Will falling in love with Hannibal. And then we end the episode with Hannibal's first dinner party, which is something the character is known for in general. And we see it now in the show for the first time. So a lot of fun. Some behind the scenes facts. Again, I said we meet Tobias for the first time. And I learned that from The Art of Hannibal that Tobias was created because Fuller was unable to get the rights to James Gumb, aka Buffalo Bill. So they created this Tobias Budge character in lieu of that. Again, creativity in television, kind of having to bend the rules and make it your own within the constraints you have. And some of my favorite shots, we get Jack, this great, again, symmetrical shot. He's the center of it, walking through the FBI to the morgue area, and that's where we see Zombie Will. We get this interest, again, fisheye shot. Brian is not scared to like do a fun funky shot of Hannibal in the fridge. It's kind of silly, but we are seeing him cook. And again, just a fun angle. Jack staring at the cork board. Again, symmetry, but we don't see his face. We just see his back to the board. All of these images kind of haunting him. Excuse me. I love the shot of Hannibal and Franklin in therapy because the body language is really great. Again, symmetrical. It's kind of dark, but Franklin's leaning forward and Hannibal's leaning back, and you see this kind of imbalance in this relationship. And then we get our shining bathroom. I love the shot because it's very shining bathroom. You see the gore. It's very scary, but the lamp gives the like the illusion of antlers, which is just a great, stunning visual for Will Graham and like what he is to become. And then we move on to episode 8, fromage, which means cheese. We know Franklin is a cheese fan. The main killer is Tobias Budge. And I think the theme is friendship and finding your soulmate. And we're kind of led to believe, like, is it maybe Tobias? And there is this kind of mirroring of Tobias and Franklin with Will and Hannibal, but it's like Hannibal meets another serial killer, and it's like, is it a match made in heaven or no? No, Will is his soulmate, but that is the theme of this episode. We get this really big, scary-ass bass in the throat prop. It's an incredible prop. It's probably one of my favorite props, just because I think it's so scary. Another favorite part of the episode is Hannibal's face at the end when he realizes Will has not died. And there's just like this glowing admiration. And it's like, did they have to light his eyes like that? Or did Hannibal's eyes just do that? Do Mad's eyes just do that when he looks at Hugh Dancy? This episode explores the typical serial killer in its relationship to Hannibal with Tobias. We get Tobias using human organs to make catgut for violins. Again, a parallel to Hannibal, using body parts to make something greater. He compares humans to music and how we're all unique arrangements. I like that Hannibal, when he goes to visit Tobias, he holds the doorbell, and so he can't hear him come in, and Tobias immediately notices it because, again, he's a serial killer and always having to like cover his shit up. So the normal tactics don't really work on Hannibal, which is a nice challenge for him. We find out that Hannibal plays the fucking theremin, which is, again, a hilarious detail. It's such a pretentious instrument, but he plays it because it can generate pitch even between the conventional notes. And we all know that Hannibal kind of abhors the conventional, and he's always looking to elevate an experience. So the theremin just makes sense for him. This episode, Will is hearing noises in his house, and he busts open his fireplace and has this like giant hole in his fireplace, and it's just this like representation for like this giant hole in his heart, and we see this like heavy metaphor in the shot. Alana comes over and her and Will kiss, and Hugh Dancy is a really excellent on-screen kisser. So is Mads. I find it to be an art. Not everyone can kiss on screen and make it look good. Sometimes it just looks gross because that's just, I think, the nature of kissing, but they're both really good at it. And then Will drives 2 hours to tell Hannibal that he kissed Alana, and Hannibal is not fucking happy about it, so he sends his ass to go catch Tobias. Partially, I think, because he's mad at Will, and also because I'm like, it's like, oh, can he take care of Tobias for me? There's this like, can he pass my test element, and that's something that I think Hannibal is always doing for Will, is can he pass my test? Is he the one for me? We get a really good fight scene with Tobias and Hannibal. It's my understanding that Mads did his own stunts. I've seen some behind the scenes video of him practicing the stunts for it. He's a dancer, he's a soccer player, he's an athlete. I love when he fights because it's just, it's an art. It's a dance. And Hannibal cracks Tobias's head open with that stag. Again, just like really heavy on the metaphor. And we have at the very end Will being like, I feel like I dragged you into my world, Hannibal. And Hannibal's like, baby, I am right where I want to be. Amazing. And yeah, so the behind the scenes for this was that, you know, Hannibal is doing his own stunts, and Tobias and Franklin, where their relationship per Brian Fuller and team was to mirror Will and Hannibal's. And I think it's just like, yeah, like a pale comparison, but it's fun when we get Hannibal kind of going up against other serial killers. Because again, it shows you how unkillable he is and how like elevated and like just better than them that he is. Like, okay, there's the regular serial killer who we can capture, and then there's Hannibal. I like the shot of Bedelia and Hannibal in therapy because they are kind of equals to me in a lot of ways. They're similar in the way that they're sitting. Again, a really symmetrical shot, a really beautiful representation of their relationship. And then again, this giant prop obsessed. Again, we get this downward angle. It's a way, I think, so apparently another thing that they mentioned in the art of Hannibal is like this giant base in the neck prop was like a really intricate prop and it was very brutal, so they kind of shot it a million ways and only ended up using it a couple ways, and I think to make it like look less graphic. And I think shooting it from the top down like this with Will playing it is a great way to censor it while showing you how disgusting it is. So again, a great use of kind of tricking the network with the angle of the shot. I love the shot of Will and Alana and the giant hole in his heart after she's like, I kiss, like they kiss, and she's like, I can't be with you. And you just see this, the very obvious metaphor of like Will Graham's gaping hole in his heart. A lot of symmetry that we see in the reveal of the dead body with the base in the neck. We see Will watching it from the audience, very center in the shot, just the only one in the audience. He's got his arms out, almost Christ-like. We see the shot from far away. Again, a good way to show the prop by censoring it with this like very long shot. And again, up close, we get this kind of like downward up angle. Again, a good way to censor it, a good way to show you how gross it is without giving you too many details. And then we move on to episode 9, True Normand. And this is the main killer, Lawrence Wells. This is the body totem pole. This is, I think, the biggest prop in the show. My favorite part of the episode is the end when we get the Abigail reveal that she was helping her father. I remember being shocked. I remember like gasping. I remember thinking Abigail was innocent, like she tricked me straight up. And also this is another episode where Jack bullies a child, so it's Abigail, but like he bullies her and I love it. I think it's hilarious when he bullies kids. His hands are really rated E for everybody. We get that opening shot of Jack being pensive on the beach. You like can't ever trust a man being pensive on the beach. Will loses time. He is at the crime scene. This is where like we really start to see him lose time. He's at the crime scene on the beach and then he ends up just in Hannibal's office and doesn't remember how he got there. He really wants a brain scan, and in this episode Hannibal encourages him no, and that you're just trying to find answers for something that's not there. Full well knowing he has encephalitis. Again, Hannibal using his trust with Will to like control the narrative, because if he finds out that he has encephalitis, then he can get it treated and Hannibal's little like excursion is over. We see Abigail in therapy and kind of struggling in therapy. Alana does turn down Will because she thinks he's unstable. She hugs him and we get this Alana Will hug. Abigail decides she's going to write a book with Freddie Lowndes and kind of she's attempting to control her narrative, but Hannibal and Will are like, you're kind of opening Pandora's box here. You're like opening the world to yourself. And that being said, the body of Nick Boyle is found because Abigail lets it be found because she thinks this is how she can control her narrative. And I think that it's a really good example of how naive Abigail is. Like she's dealing in all this darkness and this murder, but she's still a young woman and her brain isn't even fully developed yet. And she's not always making the best decisions. Lawrence Wells, we find out that he was, killing just for fun his whole life, people that have wronged him. It's like very much like, oh, he was just doing it for the love of the game, which is kind of like Hannibal. We see that parallel. The actor that plays Lawrence Wells was in the Aliens franchise, so that's a lot of fun because, Fuller's a big fan of Alien, me too. Will realizes that Abigail killed Nick Boyle, and it's like very traumatizing for him that this very innocent creature could do such dark things, and I think that reflects inward to how he is feeling. We find out that Lawrence Wells really liked to kill people and then go to their funerals and like be really all-knowing that he was the one that caused this, which I think is very similar to how Hannibal feels about killing people. The episode ends with Abigail revealing to Hannibal, I helped my dad. And he was like, yeah, babe, I know. So another good reveal. I remember genuinely being shocked and like thinking that Abigail is innocent, but like I don't know why, because like if she's part of this murder family, then she likes murdering too. So like they are just kind of this fucked up hodgepodge of people that like want to enjoy their life and like be good people, but also really like to kill. Wonderful, wonderful family dynamic. The behind the scenes facts for this is this giant prop. The prop team was like, okay, do we make this prop full and just like really detailed every aspect of it, or do we just like do little pieces that are meant for close-ups? They wanted to, do the whole thing and make it complete, but instead they really customized certain areas of the totem pole to be meant for close-up shots. And again, this is another testament to the time restraints of television. You kind of have to maximize both the efficiency and the art. So some of the totem pole was really intricate and detailed, while other was just kind of meant for like long shots. And it's kind of like working smarter, not harder. Green is a really big color in this episode. We see it a lot at Abigail's therapy where she gets therapized. And then we have the blue gray of the beach. And we get this great top-down shot of the totem pole and the prop, which is great because the prop is full of bodies, but then he buried bodies around the sand as well. So this really maximizes how many people Lawrence Wells killed in a single shot. And it's just like a really good way to tell the story. I love this shot of Abigail and Dr. Bloom walking into the FBI to go look at Nicholas Boyle's body. Alana is wearing red. A lot of the female characters wear red, but she's not happy to be there. She stands out. She is angry, and I think that's reflected in the color in her clothing. I love the shot of Hannibal and Will in Hannibal's office after Will finds out that Abigail helped her dad, and Hannibal puts his hand on Will's shoulder. Again, he gets a hug by Alana early in the episode, but then we get this intimate physical moment between Will and Hannibal, and you see the parallel here, which is nice. I love the shot of Hannibal's desk because, again, it's just a really good example of how you can tell a lot about a character by their surroundings. Everything is symmetrical. Everything is lined perfectly. He is sharpening his pencil with a scalpel. This man is very meticulous and neat and organized, and it's just, there is nothing being said in this shot, but you can just see it. And then we move to episode 10, Buffet Freud. The main killer of this episode is Georgia Madchen, and it features Hannibal. So we got a little 1-2 punch here. Themes are inability to see people for who they are. You know, in this case, it was Georgia in faces, but it's also literal. And mental illness as an abstract, untouchable concept, something that you can't diagnose objectively. And I do think there's a theme is like feeling alive versus feeling dead, the unreality of it all. My favorite part of the episode is this is our first introduction to Hannibal's plastic suit. It is such a fun design choice for Hannibal. He can take it off and immediately go about his day. It's still fancy man. It's still aesthetic. It's probably really fun to shoot on screen. I imagine it's really sweaty and hot, but it just, I think, is very in alignment with Hannibal as a style choice and his character. This is the first episode where we see Will drawing the clock, the infamous clock that is just, you know, plastered in our brains. We get this great transition of Will bringing home fish and cutting it open and like it bleeding, and then it transitions to him being in the crime scene fucking it all up because he was losing time, he was hallucinating, and Jack being mad that he contaminated the crime scene, that Will contaminated the crime scene, even though he's been playing around in the crime scenes this entire season. But this is different because there is no plastic sheet. We get this great line from Jack where he's like, "Fear makes you rude, Will." And we all know Hannibal doesn't like rude people, and rude is a very like charged word in the Hanniverse. Hannibal strikes a bargain with Will. And again, we know bargains are kind of like currency for Hannibal. He says, "I will go with you to get a brain scan, but if it comes back that nothing's wrong with you, like you have to drop it," which again is like controlling the narrative of him having this encephalitis and not being willing to catch it. And so Hannibal knows a doctor, and Will comes, they go to the appointment together because they're boyfriends. And we meet Dr. Sutcliffe. It's like making a bargain with the devil. Like, oh, if we do this one time, you have to promise to never bring it up again. And it's a way to control Will. And he gets the appointment with Dr. Sutcliffe. We find out it's encephalitis. It's exactly in half of his brain. Again, some beautiful symmetry. Hannibal gets Dr. Sutcliffe to lie about it because they want to study him further. We get this great moment with Georgia's mom. Again, remember the moment with Jack finding out Bella has cancer. Georgia's mom is saying, "Hey, we've tried really, really hard to find out what's wrong with our daughter, but we can't. And we've been told our whole lives it's something, and then it's something else." And Will has this realization of like, is this what my life is going to be like? Is this how it's always going to be with me? Will goes in for a second brain scan and then discovers Dr. Sutcliffe's body mutilated in the same similar way that Georgia has been doing it. But we all know that it was Hannibal in his plastic suit. Georgia eventually follows Will home and hides under his bed, and that is how she's discovered and turned in. But the episode ends with a flashback of Hannibal killing Dr. Sutcliffe and Georgia walking in on them, but she can't see his face, she can't identify him. It's just, again, a wild ride. It's always fun to see Hannibal kind of piggyback on the murders. He does this one a little more brutal. The Glasgow smile, this is the behind the scenes. It's a nod to the Black Dahlia. The head was a prosthetic because the makeup was just too big and too gory to use an actor. But the other Glasgow smiles were just prosthetic makeup. But this head, Dr. Sutcliffe's head, was a prosthetic because Hannibal's really brutal with this murder, more so than Georgia was. and the props staff nicknamed it the Pez head because you know how it kind of like hinges. So dark and ridiculous. I love it. But like back to Hannibal, like he is always more brutal with the copycat murders, which I feel like he just like can't help it. And it's always just like a really good, like Georgia wasn't doing it to be brutal. Hannibal was, you know? Some of my favorite shots, we get Will's brain scan. Again, this like very symmetrical, straight down the line shot of his brain scan. I just think it works really well with the symmetry of the rest of the series. More symmetry, Will and Hannibal's office, they're doing therapy together. They're kind of far apart. And I just love the symmetry. I love the way that the chairs are used in relationship to kind of Hannibal and Will's relationship. I love the scene of Georgia killing this victim in the beginning. It's very classic horror, again, shot from the ceiling down, and we see just the blood spatters. And I imagine this was another form of censorship, but it's a really scary, like classic horror moment of like being dragged under the bed and killed. And then we move on to episode 11, Roti, which is my favorite episode of the season. And it's because we get our first Chilton, like absolute fuck up. I just think one of my favorite things about the character of Chilton is how he's like just constantly getting his shit rocked and like just absolutely wrecked and is surviving. And I think that's funny. The main killer is Abel Gideon. And again, when Abel Gideon comes into play, the themes are identity and knowing who we are and like having an identity crisis, which is something that Will is currently also struggling with. My favorite part of the episode is Chilton getting his guts ripped out by Gideon in the conservatory and Freddie Lowndes having to play nurse. And I think that's just a really funny and just a lot of fun while being like really gory and scary. I'm always going to be drawn to the things that are both scary and funny. The episode starts with Chilton and Hannibal having dinner together, and Chilton being kind of scared that he's going to get in trouble for psychic driving and convincing Gideon he is the Ripper when he is not. And Hannibal plants this in his brain. He's like, you should just lie about it. And because Hannibal is so respected, Chilton's gonna listen. We get Chilton in this like bitchy fur collar coat talking to Gideon, just another great style choice. He's always going to be flashy and ridiculous. We get a lot of really good Chilly Willy this episode. It's just so fun. Gideon breaks out of the transport truck and we see this. Okay, this is my favorite prop of the whole series. It's the organ tree. It's just really beautiful and scary. Like the organs are covered in ice because it's snowing. This is my favorite big prop. It might not be like the most impressive, like the totem pole, but I think it's my favorite. It's very Blair Witch Project. It's very like witch in the woods. Like I've said, like I just love that aesthetic. It's my favorite prop. We also get Chilton with the magnifying glass and like yelling at like, well, not yelling, but like blaming like Alana and Will and being like, everyone's gonna say this is my fault, but it's not, it's yours. And he lies and tells Will and Alana that before Gideon escaped, he was gonna confess to being the Chesapeake Ripper, which is again, he's taking Hannibal's advice. Will is revealing that he's starting to feel different and has been gradually feeling different for a while, and he's starting to feel a little bit crazy, and we kind of see this like mental illness, encephalitis starting to come to a head, like it's getting noticeable for Will, and he's like really losing time and feeling insane. I also love this because we find out that Gideon is targeting mental health professionals that he's used in the past, and he tricks Freddie Lowndes into coming to him, and like he is pretending to be a doctor that wants to write a medical journal and to collaborate with Freddie Lowndes. And I'm gonna be honest, like this is just on her because like anyone like legitimate is not going to contact a tabloid journalist and be like, be in my medical journal. Like they're used in real studies. Hilarious. We get the Colombian necktie prop, which is where Gideon removes their tongue and ties it to their throat. Freddie is horrified throughout this whole episode and you can see it on her face, but she does keep her cool and keeps Chilton alive and like keeps herself alive. And I think that's really important to Freddie's character. I also like this because we see that like Gideon's a good surgeon. Like, yes, he was crazy, and like Hannibal, like good doctor, capable, insane. There's a second Colombian necktie that pops up, and we are led to believe at first that it's Gideon, and then they're like, oh my God, no, this is the copycat. And the reason Will is able to clock it is because it's missing an arm. It's missing the same arm as Miriam Lass. So they're like, oh, we gotta go to the conservatory. Again, a great reveal. And just like a great trail of breadcrumbs. So fun. We see the conservatory. We see again a great body horror scene of Gideon cutting open Frederick and taking out his organs one by one while he's awake and getting slapped with the bloody handprint on his face. And like Gideon's going to serve up like a goodie basket of his organs. Hilarious. He's holding his own intestines. Again, a great prop, like a great living prop. So fun. By the time the FBI gets there, Gideon is gone and he's like kind of watching from the woods, and Freddy is keeping Chilton alive. And the whole point of this is that Gideon was trying to attract the Ripper, but like Will sneaks off with Gideon and he's like sick as hell. Like you can tell that he is having a bad time. And even Gideon is like, you don't look good. And like, I know that I'm nuts, but you look bad. And they both end up at Hannibal's house. I love this little detour, like, because Will keeps seeing Gideon and like thinking it's Garrett Jacob Hobbs, and he's like, I'm losing my mind. So he goes to his friend Hannibal and is like, is this person real? And you see Will seeing him as Garrett Jacob Hobbs and Hannibal seeing him as Abel Gideon, and Hannibal's a dick and he's like, I don't see anyone, Will. There's nobody there. You're losing your mind. Come inside. So then Hannibal sets up this entire plot to trick Will into letting Hannibal lets Gideon escape and then tricks Will into believing like, oh, he's gonna go kill Alana. We can't go though. And like, of course, Will sneaks out to go get and save Alana. But like, again, Hannibal's controlling this whole plot. He has sent Gideon to kill Alana, and he has sent Will to kill Gideon. And maybe they'll all take care of it for him, and like everything will be wrapped up really nicely. It's very Charles Manson, where like Hannibal's not actually killing these people himself, but like sending people off to do the dirty work for him. Not that he's like afraid to kill, but it's like he's just God. He's the puppet master. Will and Gideon meet up and have this like great conversation about sense of self and knowing who you are before Will shoots Gideon and brings him back in. And then they all find out that Will is sick and has a fever. At the very end of the episode, we get another great therapy session with with Bedelia and Hannibal. And Bedelia is like slowly growing tired of this whole like Will Graham debacle. And she's like, you can't be his friend. You're his patient. And of course, Hannibal doesn't want to hear that because he loves him and wants his cake and to eat it too, and like doesn't care about ethics. Some fun BTS facts about this episode is the conservatory sequence was only shot in 2 days, which is not a lot of time in film time because Eddie Izzard and Raul Esparza were only available to shoot those 2 days together. And so they were really nervous because they were like, oh, we might need more time, but they absolutely made it work. And it's like a really great end of the episode scene. So again, just kind of TV magic, and like, again, you're dealing with schedules and restraints and like, what can we make that's beautiful with these like rules? Some of my favorite shots, we have Chilton with the magnifying glass. I just kind of think it shows like what a pompous idiot he is, and it's like a funny shot. It's a throwaway, but it's great character. We get Hannibal and Will in therapy again, and they are closer this time. So we saw them a little further away last episode, and they're much closer this time because they are slowly becoming closer to each other. You know, I love this shot when Will is going to check out the ambulance where Gideon broke out, because again, we see Jack in the background kind of looming. He's always influencing him. Just like a very literal shot. We see Dr. Bloom in red again. It's a color we don't really see other characters wear except for her and Bedelia. Again, the women, and kind of I think the frustration and anger they feel toward these idiot ass men. I love how Fuller and team censor the gory moments, like when Gideon is attacking the security guards in the bus. We see blood spatter on the walls. We don't see like the direct violence, and that's just, again, a great way to censor while still being scary. The best shot of the whole episode is definitely Jack talking to Will and like debriefing all the FBI agents, and the antlers are around him, the antler room. It's like showing the deterioration of Will and his brain. Like also he sees Jack as this like formidable presence, and it's just like a very beautiful shot combining him losing his mind with what he's currently dealing with. And I love this. I love when Hannibal and Will, I love when Will goes to Hannibal's house and is like having the seizure, and Hannibal grabs his face. And I think something to think about with Hannibal is like all of his very intimate moments, the touching and what they look like. They might not be inherently romantic, like he's holding his head because he's having a seizure, but for Hannibal, these moments I think are very important to him because he's touching Will and he doesn't touch him often. And then we move on to episode 12, Releves, and the main killer is Hannibal. And the theme is sanity and whether you can treat sanity, and this concept of sanity as like an untouchable object. My favorite part of the episode is seeing Bedelia and Jack together. Again, I really like unlikely character interactions. I love that she shuts him down. I love that she remains loyal to Hannibal, and it's definitely out of fear because she's loyal to herself most of all. We get Hannibal sneaking that comb to Georgia and her dying because of the spark in her oxygen chamber, which is a great scary death. Beforehand, she reveals to Will that she thought he killed Dr. Sutcliffe, but she couldn't see his face. So now Will is like, okay, we know that she's not a liar. So like, who did she see killing Dr. Sutcliffe? This is also the episode where Hannibal brings Will the soup that might make his encephalitis worse because of the berries inside of the broth. And you can see Will is like very flattered, but almost a little embarrassed. I'm sure he's not used to people helping him and doing kind things, but Hannibal does this very like kind and loving thing by bringing him soup. We also get that great Will Graham vision where Georgia comes to him and she's pierced by the antlers, and she reveals basically through the imagery of the stag and being set on fire that it was the Ripper that did it. It was the copycat, which is only confirmed by when the science husbands find the pieces of the comb in her remains. Hannibal does this really brilliantly because Will starts to connect the dots that the copycat killed Georgia, and he can convince Jack that like Will's just losing his mind because now he's connecting cases that have nothing to do with each other. And like that's the whole point of Hannibal being the Ripper, is that he's hard to track. There's no motive. Like you're not going to be able to connect the dots, and Will is connecting them, and they just seem so absurd to everybody else that nobody believes him. We get Bedelia and Jack, and Bedelia refusing to give up anything about Hannibal except for the fact that he really cares about Will Graham and considers himself his friend and will do anything to help him. But she is not going to help Jack because she fears Hannibal. Abigail and Will confide in each other at Abigail's like hospital, and they're like, we liked killing. We get this really beautiful moment between them being like, no, it kind of felt good. And like, they're ashamed to admit it because Abigail and Will are not yet where Hannibal is in the mindset, right? Like Hannibal's proud of it. Abigail and Will are still becoming, and they're like confiding in each other. Bedelia warns Hannibal, hey, the FBI is snooping around. You got to cut it out. And he can't do it. Will decides he wants to take Abigail to Minnesota, and Hannibal kind of panics because he's like, oh shit, am I going to get caught? So I think that's the moment when he decides to frame Will. Hannibal is always interesting in the moments where he has to kind of make last minute decisions instead of planning everything out. And I think Will can sometimes throw a wrench into it. And that's why he's kind of met his match in Will, because he isn't able to control the entire narrative without Will figuring some of it out. The science husbands are able to determine that Abigail did help her dad because they were able to track train tickets for where he picked up victims, and Abigail also had a ticket, so she was present. I think that heavily implies that she was helping. Will does kidnap Abigail and they go to Minnesota. They look at the antler room. She confesses that she was helping her dad, and Will gets really, really, really upset by that because again, it's like crushing this illusion that she is innocent and naive and sweet and good, and that's something he's struggling with within himself. But then he loses time and just like ends up on an airplane back home, and Abigail's just not there because Abigail has gone to her old house to find Hannibal, and he delivers that really great line of being like, she finds out that he was the copycat the entire time, and she's like, fuck, are you gonna kill me? And then he's like, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you in this life. And the episode ends and we don't know if she's living or dying. I love it. From the art of Hannibal, Abigail represents the possibility for Will to be a savior. And so I think it's really crushing when he sees that she's kind of has this darkness. But in doing so, in like trying to be her savior, he becomes more like a father figure to her, which makes him more like Garrett Jacob Hobbs, who was a cannibal who wanted to eat her. So he just kind of is being thrown further into Hannibal's arms over this. And I love it. Some of my favorite shots, again, we get that beautiful greenery of Abigail and Will in her like psych ward, and the body language of them like bonding over this. The symmetry of the shot, again, symmetry is the name of the game for Fuller. I love Bedelia's kitchen because I think it really mirrors Hannibal's dining room with these plant structures on the wall, and I love that like kind of thread between them. We get Will in this ridiculous manspreading in Hannibal's office. What the hell is that? I love it more. We get Abigail wearing red. Again, the women in the show wearing red I think is really important. This nice parallel shot of them flying to Minnesota She's clearly distraught. And again, I know I talked about Hannibal and his acts of intimacy. And at the end of this episode, we get him caressing Abigail's cheek. I love this shot because she looks very scared. But again, it's like physical touch from Hannibal. And in a way, it's like very loving while being very terrifying. We get Bedelia wearing red. I just love the use of red in this episode for the women. Like, they're all angry. They're all over it. They stick out. They're not fitting into this narrative the same way. And then lastly, we hit episode 13, Savourer, where the main killer is Hannibal. And the theme is to savor, right? It is Hannibal savoring the framing of Will Graham, trying to make it all last. I love that. This is the first episode where the Wendigo appears. That kind of looks like Hannibal. We have the stag, but now we have the Wendigo. My favorite parts of this episode, I love the lore detail where we find out that when Will is getting framed, that they were like, oh, we found lores with bits of the copycat's victims in the lore. And it's like Hannibal went to this great length to frame Will and do something very intimate for him. I love that. I also love Will falling asleep in Hannibal's car after he's escaped prison. It's one of the few, I mean, if you're falling asleep next to somebody you know, it's because you trust them. And I imagine Will has been very stressed out in being framed, but he feels safe with Hannibal still. And that does change by the end of the episode, but I do love that, like, their intimate moments are very not on the nose, but they are very beautiful. The episode opens with this, again, we're not in reality. Will is in a hallucination or a dream. And he's in the woods hunting, like Abigail Hobbs did, and he's trying to find the stag, but the Wendigo appears, and the Wendigo is feasting on the stag, which represents, death, Abigail. And then he wakes up after, meeting the Wendigo in his hallucination/dream, and he barfs up an ear. Somewhere between, him going to Minnesota and then meeting up with Hannibal, he eats an ear. And we don't know where Abigail is. So it's very, very likely that he's eaten Abigail Hobbs. But at that same time, Hannibal rolls up and he's just like in the right place at the right time. We get a great mental breakdown from Alana, just like freaking out at Jack, blaming everybody, including herself, for this happening. And she's not wrong, but like, it's funny because she's one of the few people to take accountability. And, Jack's like, maybe Will did what Garrett Jacob Hobbs couldn't. Maybe he killed Abigail. Maybe he killed and ate her. And so they bring him in. He's in the orange jumpsuit. It's crazy. Like, it's just a crazy visual. He tells Alana that he would love to scream because she's been screaming in the car. And he's like, but if I start, I can't stop. And that's a great, I think, metaphor of talking about the darkness within him. Once he kind of opens the door to killing people and the darkness and the murdering, he won't be able to stop. Alana says she's going to handle the dogs for him. Just a really loving, sweet moment. Like, we're all like, I'm glad that we know that the dogs are going to be okay. Alana makes him draw a clock because Will reveals that Hannibal made him do it, and then she sees that it's a fucked up clock and she's very relieved. We see Hannibal cry to Bedelia. We don't see tears from him a lot. We see them this episode, and Bedelia is still pleading, hey, stop fucking with Will Graham. And he can't. He's like, I'm his friend. I'm still his friend. And I like this episode too because Will recognizes, like, oh, they're trying to frame me for all of the copycat murders. I genuinely don't think I would do that. Only one I believed I would do is Garrett Jacob Hobbs because I was so in his head. So me killing Abigail isn't that crazy, but like, I did not kill the others. And in that moment, he realizes he was framed. I love that. It's just like Hannibal went too far. He wanted to frame him for too much, and Will's too smart. And then we are launched into season 2 of Will, everyone thinking Will is the Ripper, and then Will being like, no, I definitely didn't kill these other people. I may have just killed the one. Will breaks out, and where does he go first? Hannibal's office, his safe space, and he has a gun, and he forces Hannibal to take him to Minnesota. That's where he falls asleep. Again, he has a gun, but he's not pointing it at Hannibal. He's taking a nap in his car. Hannibal could have taken the gun at any point. I love when he's in Hannibal's office before they go to Minnesota, and we see all the big props reused, and they're like painted black. It looks like almost like covered in tar. Again, a great reuse of a prop. We have all these expensive props. We may as well use them again. I love that we start the series, at the end of episode 1. Season 1, episode 1, we end it in the Hobbs kitchen with Garrett Jacob Hobbs being shot. And then the finale, we end it with Will in the Hobbs kitchen getting shot in the same corner as Garrett Jacob Hobbs. It's this nice tie-in, this nice parallel, this nice story arc. It closes really nicely. But Will has realized that it's either him or Hannibal that's doing these murders, and he is no longer trusting of Hannibal. So we have this great friendship being built up in season 1 only for this final episode that Will is now questioning it. And Jack shoots him in the same place that Garrett Jacob Hobbs was shot. Hannibal does not do the shooting, again, because Hannibal is not going to be the one that's like killing outright. He's doing it like in secret on his own time, but like if he can, he does also like to get other people to kill. That's definitely part of the perversion. It's a nice full circle moment. The behind the scenes fact for this episode, and I'm going to quote it, this is from Hugh Dancy. It's about Will Graham. Hannibal can talk with the same level of profound insight as Will has about acts of violent people, and that's reflected in the language. In the scenes that Will and Hannibal have when they're in Hannibal's office, when they are not directly therapizing Will, and they're talking about the various different crimes, the language remains the same. It's almost heightened, very poetic, and full of imagery. That's not the case when Will talks to Jack about the crimes. Jack just wants answers. So this thread between Will and Hannibal is because they are on the same level. They can think about things in the same way. They can talk about murder and killing people the way they can talk about art and literature and everything else. He is also able to like conceptualize the crimes in the same way that Will can and talk about them instead of like just demanding answers, like walk through what the killer is thinking, and that is very appealing to Will. So overall themes are, friendship, knowing yourself, unreality, and these are really important going into season 2 when Will is in the hospital or in jail and is waiting to go on trial and figuring out who he is. Did he do it? And he fully believes that Hannibal has done it. He is still connected to Hannibal, now in more of a toxic way, trying to claw his way out of prison, which I think Hannibal finds to be very entertaining. Will solve his framing from inside of jail. And it's just another Will Graham test. We end the season with Hannibal coming to visit Will in prison and being very smiley and excited about it, where Will is very angry. So there's this like very excellent tension. I think he thinks Will still wants to be his friend, but Will is angry because he is being framed. So we get this really great friendship throughout, and then next season it's going to be really different. The dynamic is going to be really different before they come back together again. Think of it like in most TV shows where they like to break couples up. It's like a very common tactic. Oh, I'm going to break this couple up only to have them come back together later. It's great for views. It's kind of like that here. Like, no, they're not going to be friends the whole time. There's going to be tension between them. And that's what's going to launch us into season 2. Some of my favorite shots from this episode. Again, symmetrical. Will in the fetal position at his house. His feet are dirty. He's just looking really worn out. And it's just, you're really feeling for him with the posture and the body language here. I love this shot because, again, it gives kind of texture to the imagery. It's like Will is going to jail and it's being shot through a chain link fence. It's a little on the nose, but like visually stunning, unique. Not every shot has to be the same and be very straightforward, and I like that. I like this shot too of Hannibal and Will in Will's house. Hannibal's putting a blanket on him. It's shot through this doorway, again, very symmetrical. And it's like we are looking in on the situation. And I love that. And also Hannibal's like caring for Will, putting a blanket on him. Again, with some more symmetry, Will in his undies being looked at by the FBI, like for evidence. And the shot is backlit and like he's looking very dark in the shot, but he is the center of it. Love that. Will and Hannibal in therapy. When he escaped from jail, they're far away again. The room is so dark and only lit by the windows in the back. I love that too, because it's kind of like a legal therapy, like he should be in jail. And then we have Alana talking to Will in interrogation, and he's wearing orange. They're the only color in this scene. Again, it's Fuller and team really like to like gravitate your eyes towards the color and like really make you pay attention to certain elements of the shot. We see Will see the Wendigo through the two-way mirror. Love that. I love the shot. Oh my God, this shot's so good. It's a close-up of Will reaching out for Hannibal's hand for help when he's come to his house, and Hannibal's hand is really dark. And again, this metaphor of like the devil's hand reaching out for help. It's like, oh, it's a friend, but it's not really a friend. And then we end the episode like we ended the first episode with Jack and Hannibal at Will's hospital bed, watching over him. Again, his devil and his angel, his mom and his dad, just like Will and Hannibal did for Abigail Hobbs. And it's just, we really like these like bookend first and last episodes that just tie in together really, really, really well. That is season 1 of Hannibal. Overall, so good. The show only gets better, and I think it really hits its stride in season 2. So yeah, that is season 1. I can't wait to jump into season 2 with you guys. I'm going to be taking the summer off to prep for season 2. I'm going to rewatch all of season 2, take some notes, get ready to shoot, but also just relax. This has been an incredible journey, but I am so tired. I love filming. I'm not a great editor, so it always takes me a long time. So I just want to give myself some time to rest and recoup and prep for season 2, but I will be back. Follow me everywhere, TikTok, Tumblr, Instagram. I've been trying to be more active on Instagram, I promise. That way we can keep in touch in between seasons. I am currently working on getting the video episodes of this podcast onto Apple Podcasts. I know some of you only listen to the audio, which is great, and I'm happy to have you here, but the video does have has a lot of images, it has some text, a little behind the scenes stuff to enjoy. So that should hopefully be coming to Apple soon. I am waiting to hear back, fingers crossed. But yes, super excited. Follow me everywhere. Don't forget that I will be doing this giveaway. It will be on TikTok. It should come out May 31st. It should be 2 weeks long. It will be US only for this first giveaway. Again, apologies, but I just want to make sure I do it right for the first time. I'm hoping to do more. Yes, so I hope you enjoyed season 1. I hope you enjoyed my commentary and my limited film knowledge. I really loved doing it, and I cannot wait to get into season 2 with you guys. And yeah, follow me everywhere. Have a really lovely summer, and I will see you guys come September, okay? Bye.